The red warning lights flashed across the command center as Admiral Jake Morrison stared at the main screen. Thousands of alien ships filled the dark space above New Terra Prime. The massive crystalline vessels looked like floating mountains of sharp glass and metal. Each one was 3 times bigger than the largest human battleship. "How long do we have?" Jake asked his tactical officer. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant checked her readings. "The shields will fail in 6 hours. Maybe less if they hit us with everything they have." Jake nodded slowly. He had known this day would come. For the past 2 years, the Vexthul Collective had destroyed every human colony they found. 17. Worlds had fallen. Millions of people were dead or captured. New Terra Prime was humanity's last stronghold, and now even that was about to fall. The Vexthul were not like humans. They looked like walking crystals with too many arms and glowing eyes that never blinked. They did not want to talk or make deals. They just took what they wanted and moved on to the next target. Nobody knew why they hated humans so much. "Sir, Captain Burke is requesting permission to launch," Lisa said. Jake turned to look at the smaller screen showing the fighter bay. Captain Ryan Burke stood next to his ship checking his weapons one last time. Behind him, 23 other pilots did the same. It was all they had left. 24 fighters against thousands of alien ships. "Tell him he has permission," Jake said. "And tell him it has been an honor." In the fighter bay, Ryan heard the Admiral's message through his helmet radio. He looked at his wingman, Amy Tucker, who was climbing into her cockpit. "You ready for this?" Ryan asked. Amy gave him a thumbs up. "Born ready, Captain. Besides, somebody has to make these ugly aliens work for their victory." Ryan smiled despite everything. Amy always tried to make jokes when things got bad. It helped the other pilots stay calm. Right now, they needed all the calm they could get. The hangar doors opened and the fighters launched into space. Ryan could see the alien fleet waiting for them. The Vexthul ships did not move. They just floated there like they were waiting for something. "All fighters, this is Burke," Ryan said into his radio. "Remember what we practiced. Hit and run. Don't try to be a hero. We just need to buy time for the evacuation." Down in the underground shelters, Dr. Helen Carter helped load the last group of children onto the transport ships. These ships would take them deeper underground where the aliens hopefully could not find them. She watched a little girl cry for her mother, who was staying behind to help defend the city. "It's going to be okay," Helen told the girl, but she was not sure she believed it herself. Engineer Paul Davis ran through the power station, checking every system. The shield generators were already running at maximum power. He had pushed them harder than they were designed to go, but it still would not be enough. "Come on, you piece of junk," Paul muttered, as he hit a control panel with his fist. "Give me just a few more hours." In the communications center, Lieutenant Bobby Martinez listened to radio signals from across the galaxy. Most of what he heard was bad news. Other human colonies calling for help that would never come. Alien signals that he could not understand. The usual static from deep space. But then he heard something different. A signal coming from the edge of the solar system. It was weak, but it was definitely artificial. Someone was broadcasting on an old Earth military frequency that nobody had used for centuries. "Admiral Morrison to the communications center, please," Bobby said into his microphone. Jake arrived 2 minutes later. "What do you have, Lieutenant?" "Sir, I'm picking up a transmission. It's using codes from the old Earth Defense Force. The really old ones from before we even left Earth?" Jake frowned. "That's impossible. Those codes are 300 years old." "I know, sir, but listen to this." Bobby played the signal. Through the static, they could hear a voice speaking clear English with an accent that sounded like it came from old Earth history books. "This is General Nathan Cross of the Lost Brigade. We have received your distress call. We are en route to your position. Hold the line. Repeat, this is General Nathan Cross. We're coming home." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. Nathan Cross was a name from the history books. He had led Earth's first deep space mission over 3 centuries ago. The mission that had disappeared without a trace. "Sir?" Bobby asked. "What are your orders?" Before Jake could answer, the alien fleet began to move. The massive Vex-Thul ships turned toward the planet and started firing. Beams of energy lanced down from space, hitting the planetary shields. The entire command center shook as the shields absorbed the impact. "Shields down to 80%, Lisa reported. "They're testing our defenses." In space, Ryan and his fighters darted between the alien ships, firing their weapons and trying to avoid the return fire. It was like attacking a mountain with a tite hammer. Their weapons barely scratched the alien hulls. "This is not working," Amy said over the radio. "We need bigger guns. We need a miracle," Ryan replied. As if in answer to his words, space itself began to shimmer near the edge of the system. A massive tear appeared in the darkness, and through it came something that made everyone stop fighting to stare. It was a ship, but unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Parts of it looked like they had been built on Earth centuries ago. Other parts were made from materials that seemed to bend light around them, and it was huge, bigger than anything the Vex-Thul had brought. "This is General Nathan Cross," the voice came again, clearer now. "All human forces, stand down, we'll take it from here." Jake stared at the screen in amazement. After 300 years, the lost expedition had returned, and they had brought help. The alien fleet turned to face this new threat, their ships moving into attack formation. But something was different now. For the first time since the war began, the Vex-Thul seemed uncertain. In the command center, everyone watched as more ships emerged from the tear in space. Ships that looked human but also something more, something that had learned new ways to fight, sir, Lisa said quietly. "I think our luck just changed." Jake nodded, but he kept watching the screen. He had a feeling that whatever was about to happen would change everything. Not just for this battle, but for the entire war. The final stand was about to become something else entirely. The massive ship that came through the tear in space was unlike anything Admiral Jake Morrison had ever seen. Parts of it looked like they came from old Earth, with metal plating and designs he recognized from history books. But other sections seemed to be made of pure light, shifting and changing color as he watched. "Sir, we're getting more signals," Lieutenant Bobby Martinez said from his communication post. "Multiple ships are coming through that portal." Jake watched as ship after ship emerged from the glowing tear. Some were small fighters that moved like they were alive. Others were huge vessels that seemed to phase in and out of reality. All of them had that same mix of human and alien technology. "This is General Nathan Cross requesting permission to come aboard," the voice said over the radio. "I believe we have much to discuss." Jake looked at Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant. She was checking the history files on her computer. "Sir, according to records, General Nathan Cross led the deep space exploration mission in 2089. The entire expedition disappeared near Proxima Centauri. They were declared dead." "That was almost 300 years ago," Jake said. "How is this possible?" "I don't know, sir. But whoever this is, they just made the Vex-Thul fleet stop attacking us." Jake looked at the main screen. The alien ships were still there, but they had pulled back. The crystal beings seemed confused by the arrival of these new ships. Some of the Vex-Thul vessels were actually turning to leave. "Tell General Cross he has permission to dock," Jake said. "And get Dr. Carter up here. I want our best scientist to see this." 20 minutes later, Jake stood in the docking bay with Lisa and Dr. Helen Carter. The ship that came through their airlock was small and sleek. It looked like it was built from the same light-bending material as the larger vessels. The airlock opened and 3 figures stepped out. Jake had to stop himself from taking a step back. They looked human, but there was something different about them. Their eyes glowed with a soft blue light, and their skin had a strange shimmer to it. The leader was a tall man with gray hair and an old Earth military uniform that had been modified with alien technology. Lines of blue energy ran through the fabric like veins. "Admiral Morrison, I presume," the man said, extending his hand. "I am General Nathan Cross. This is Colonel Mary Bishop, my second in command, and Sergeant Alex Johnson." Jake shook the general's hand. It felt normal, but he could sense power running through the man like electricity. "General Cross, our records show that you died 3 centuries ago." Cross smiled, but it was a sad smile. We did, in a way. But that's a long story. Right now, we need to talk about the Vexthul and why they're really here. Dr. Carter stepped forward. General, I've studied every piece of data we have on the Vexthul. They're conquerors. They destroy human colonies and take whatever they want. Colonel Bishop spoke for the first time. Her voice had a strange echo to it, like she was speaking from far away. Doctor, the Vexthul are not conquerors. They are refugees, and they are just as scared as you are. That's impossible, Lisa said. They've killed millions of our people. Sergeant Johnson nodded. His entire left arm seemed to be made of the same energy that ran through their uniforms. They have, but not because they want to, because they think they have to. Let me show you what we learned. Johnson raised his energy arm and touched a wall panel. Suddenly, the air in front of them filled with images. Jake saw alien worlds being consumed by darkness. He saw creatures that looked like living shadows destroying entire star systems. These are the Devourers, Cross explained. They come from the center of the galaxy. They eat everything. Matter, energy, even time itself. The Vexthul have been running from them for thousands of years. The images changed to show Vexthul ships fleeing from the shadow creatures. Jake could see the fear in the crystal beings' glowing eyes. The Vexthul believe that by absorbing other species they can become strong enough to fight the Devourers, Bishop said. They take memories, emotions, experiences. They think it will help them survive. Dr. Carter was studying the images carefully. But it doesn't work, does it? No, Cross said. It makes them weaker. The Devourers feed on consumed life force. The more the Vexthul absorb, the easier it becomes for the Devourers to track them. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. How do you know all this? Cross looked at his two companions, then back at Jake. Because we've been fighting the Devourers for 300 years. When our mission disappeared, we were pulled through a dimensional gateway by a dying alien race called the Architects. Johnson created new images in the air. Jake saw beings made of pure light, tall and graceful. They looked ancient and wise, but also very tired. The Architects were the last of their kind, Cross continued. The Devourers had destroyed their entire civilization. But before they died, they chose us to carry on their fight. They changed you, Dr. Carter said, understanding starting to show in her eyes. They enhanced us, Bishop replied. Gave us their technology, their knowledge, their power, but we remained human. They said that was important, that humans had something special. What? Jake asked. Cross smiled, and this time it was not sad. Hope. The ability to keep fighting even when everything seems lost. The Architects had given up. The Vexthul had given up, but humans never give up. Sergeant Johnson made the images disappear. We've been traveling through dimensions, fighting Devourer scouts, learning their weaknesses. We've been waiting for the right moment to return. And now? Lisa asked. Now the real war begins, Cross said. The Devourers have found this galaxy. The Vexthul invasion of human space was never about conquest. It was a test. Jake frowned. A test of what? Colonel Bishop stepped forward. A test to see if humans are strong enough to be allies instead of victims. The Vexthul have been looking for someone who could fight beside them against the Devourers. And if we failed the test? Dr. Carter asked. Then they would have absorbed your species and moved on, Cross said, slightly stronger but still doomed to lose in the end. Jake looked at the main screen where the Vexthul fleet was still waiting. But we didn't fail. No, Cross said with pride in his voice. You held the line. You fought back against impossible odds. You proved that humans are worth saving. Johnson nodded toward the screen. The Vexthul commander wants to talk. Her name is Shardsinger Velthak. She's been watching your defense of this world. What does she want? Jake asked. Cross looked at his old uniform, then at the alien technology that now covered it. She wants to know if humans are ready to join a real alliance. Not conquest, not absorption. Partnership. Against the Devourers, Bishop added. Jake felt the weight of the decision settling on his shoulders. 300 years ago, humanity had sent explorers into deep space to find new worlds. Instead, they had found a war that spanned dimensions and threatened all life in the galaxy. Now those same explorers had returned, changed but still human, offering a chance to fight back against the darkness. "General Cross," Jake said, "what do we need to do?" Cross smiled and looked at his companions. After 3 centuries of fighting alone, they were finally home, and the real battle was about to begin. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the meeting room with General Nathan Cross and the Vexthal commander, Shardsinger Velthak. The alien was tall and made of what looked like living crystal. Her voice sounded like wind chimes when she spoke. "Your species fights well," Velthak said to Jake through a translation device. "But you do not understand what is coming." Cross nodded and activated a holographic display. The room filled with images of space, but not the space Jake knew. This space was black and empty, with strange tears that seemed to eat light itself. "This all. Devourers are not just destroyers," Cross explained. "They consume reality itself. When they arrive, they don't just kill. They make it so that things never existed at all." Dr. Helen Carter, who had been invited to the meeting, studied the images carefully. "That's impossible. Matter can't just disappear." Sergeant Alex Johnson, whose arm still glowed with alien energy, touched the display. New images appeared showing entire star systems simply vanishing. "Doctor, we thought the same thing, but we've seen it happen. Worlds, stars, entire civilizations, just gone. Not destroyed. Gone like they were never there." Jake felt a cold fear growing in his chest. "How do we fight something like that?" "Together," Cross said simply. "The architects taught us that unity is the only defense against the devourers. Not absorption like the Vexthal tried. Real unity." Colonel Mary Bishop stepped forward. "We need to enhance your fighters and ships. Give them the same abilities we have." Jake looked at the alien commander. "Will your people accept this alliance?" Velthak's crystal body changed color, shifting from blue to green. "My people are tired of running, tired of taking what is not ours. If humans can show us another way, we will follow." 2 hours later, Captain Ryan Burke stood in the fighter bay looking at his ship. It looked completely different now. The hull was covered with the same light-bending material he had seen on Cross's vessels. Lines of blue energy ran along the wings like veins. "How? Do I fly this thing?" Ryan asked Master Chief Tom Anderson, one of Cross's enhanced warriors who had volunteered to train the human pilots. Tom smiled. "You don't fly it. You become part of it. Watch." Tom placed his hand on the side of the ship. Instantly, his eyes began to glow with the same blue light that ran through the vessel. "The architect technology responds to thought and emotion. You have to trust it." Ryan's wingman, Amy Tucker, was examining her own modified fighter. "This is crazy. You're telling me the ship is alive?" "Not alive," said Corporal Danny White, another enhanced warrior, "but aware. It will learn from you, adapt to how you fly. In time, you won't be able to tell where you end and the ship begins." Amy grinned. "Sounds like my kind of flying." In the command center, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant worked with Vexthal, technicians to link the human and alien defense systems. The crystal beings did not use computers the way humans did. Instead, they grew their technology like plants, creating living networks that could think and adapt. "Your defensive grid is too rigid," one of the Vexthal engineers explained through its translator. "When the devourers come, they will find the patterns and break them. You need systems that can change." Lisa watched as the alien began modifying their shield generators. The metal and circuits were replaced with crystal formations that pulsed with inner light. "Will this really work?" "It worked for us for 1,000 years, the engineer replied, "until we forgot that running away is not the same as fighting back." Down in the research labs, Dr. Carter worked with Colonel Pete Williams, Cross's chief scientist. Williams had been enhanced like the others, but his modifications were different. His mind could process information at incredible speeds, and his fingers could manipulate matter at the molecular level. The key to fighting the Devourers, Williams explained as he worked, is not to give them anything to consume. Traditional weapons feed them energy. Physical attacks give them matter to absorb. Then how do we hurt them? Carter asked. Williams smiled and held up a small device that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. We don't hurt them. We confuse them. This creates pockets of impossible space. Areas where the laws of physics don't work the way they expect. Carter stared at the device. That's brilliant. If they can't understand the space they're in, they can't consume it. Exactly. The architects called it reality anchoring. We make small areas of space so complex that even the Devourers can't digest them. In the communications center, Lieutenant Bobby Martinez was learning to use Vexthul communication technology. Instead of radio waves, the crystal beings used something called harmonic resonance. They could send messages through space by making reality itself vibrate. This is incredible, Bobby said to his Vexthul partner, a being called Echo of Stars. We can communicate instantly across any distance. Distance is just another barrier to overcome, Echo of Stars replied. When species work together, all barriers become smaller. As the hours passed, something amazing began to happen. The human and Vexthul crews started working together naturally. Language barriers disappeared as they focused on their common goal. Fear turned into determination. Captain Burke took his enhanced fighter on its first test flight. As soon as he activated the new systems, he felt the ship respond to his thoughts. It was like having wings that obeyed his mind instead of his hands. This is incredible, he said over the radio. Amy, are you feeling this? Like I was born to fly this thing, Amy replied. Her fighter moved through space like a dancer, turning and spinning in ways that should have been impossible. Squadron leader Kevin Brooks discovered something even more amazing. His enhanced vision allowed him to see things that were not quite there yet. I can see their attack patterns before they form them, he reported. It's like looking into the future. Jenny Adams, one of the newest pilots, found that she could link her consciousness directly with her ship's computer. I can feel everything, every star, every piece of space dust. It's like the universe is alive. Back in the command center, Jake watched his people transform. The fear that had filled the room just hours earlier was gone. In its place was something he had not felt since the war began: hope. Sir, Lisa reported, all systems are online. The Vexthul fleet is moving into defensive positions around the planet. Jake nodded. And the Devourers? Cross appeared beside him, his enhanced senses picking up disturbances in space that normal humans could not detect. They're coming. The scouts will arrive first, then the main force. But we're ready for them. Velthak's crystal form shifted to a warm golden color. For the first time in 1,000 years, my people are not running. We stand and fight. Jake looked around the command center at humans and aliens working side by side. 300 years ago, humanity had reached for the stars hoping to find new worlds. Instead, they had found a family they never knew they needed. General Cross, Jake said, what are our orders? Cross smiled, and in that smile was the confidence of a warrior who had spent centuries learning how to win an impossible war. We show the Devourers what happens when humans refuse to give up. The real battle was about to begin. The first sign of the Devourers came as a ripple in space itself. Lieutenant Bobby Martinez felt it through the new communication system before his instruments could detect it. The harmonic resonance network that connected human and Vexthul forces suddenly filled with a sound like screaming. Contact, Bobby announced to the command center. Something big is coming through dimensional space. Admiral Jake Morrison watched the main screen as reality began to tear open near the edge of the solar system. What came through was unlike anything he had ever seen. The Devourer ships were not built from metal or crystal. They seemed to be made from the absence of everything. They were holes in space shaped like vessels. My God, Dr. Helen Carter whispered. They're not ships. They're wounds in reality. General, Nathan Cross stood beside Jake, his enhanced eyes seeing things that normal humans could not. 5 scout ships. The main force is still coming. This is our chance to test our new alliance. In space above New Terra Prime, Captain Ryan Burke felt his enhanced fighter respond to his thoughts. The ship had become part of him over the past few hours of training. When he wanted to turn left, it turned before he even moved the controls. All fighters, this is Burke. Remember what we learned. These things feed on normal energy. We use the reality anchors only. Amy Tucker's voice came over the radio, calm despite the terror of what they were facing. Copy that, Captain. Jenny, you ready to dance with some nightmares? Pilot Jenny Adams felt her consciousness merge completely with her ship's systems. She could sense the Devourer scouts like cold spots in her mind. Ready as I'll ever be. Kevin, what do you see? Squadron leader Kevin Brooks used his enhanced vision to peer into the near future. The ability still amazed him. They're going to split up. 3 will head for the planet, 2 will try to flank us from above. Vexthul fighters, this is Burke. Are you reading our tactical data? The reply came in perfect English from the Crystal Being's bioships. We see it, human pilot Burke. We move to intercept the flanking vessels. Jake watched from the command center as human and alien fighters moved together in perfect coordination. Just 12 hours ago, these two species had been trying to kill each other. Now they flew as one force. The first Devourer scout reached the defensive line. Ryan fired his reality anchor weapon, and space around the dark ship began to twist and bend. Instead of the normal explosion he expected, the weapon created a bubble of impossible geometry. "It's working!" Amy shouted over the radio. "The thing can't move inside the distortion field." But the other Devourer scouts adapted quickly. They began changing their approach, moving in ways that hurt to look at. They were not just traveling through space. They were rewriting the rules of how space worked. Colonel Mary Bishop launched from the command ship with her squadron of enhanced warriors. "All units, the scouts are learning. We need to hit them with everything we have before they figure out how to counter our weapons." Sergeant Alex Johnson's fighter blazed with architect energy as he dove toward the largest scout ship. His enhanced arm allowed him to channel power directly into his weapons. When he fired, the reality anchor device created not just a distortion field, but a maze of twisted space that trapped the Devourer completely. "Scratch one nightmare," Johnson reported. On the planet's surface, engineer Paul Davis worked frantically with Vexthul crystal shapers to modify the planetary defense grid. The old shield generators had been replaced with hybrid technology that existed in multiple dimensions at once. "Incoming," Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant warned from the command center. 2 Devourer scouts had broken through the fighter screen and were diving toward the planet. Their dark hulls began to glow as they prepared to consume the world's energy. Paul activated the new defensive system. Instead of a simple energy shield, the planet was suddenly surrounded by a network of crystalline barriers that shifted between dimensions. When the Devourers tried to attack, their consuming beams hit barriers that were not quite there in normal space. "The grid is holding," Paul reported, "but I don't know for how long." In space, the battle continued. Human and Vexthul fighters worked together like they had trained for years instead of hours. Amy Tucker found herself flying wing to wing with a Vexthul pilot whose bioship seemed to anticipate her every move. "This is weird," Amy said over the radio. "I can almost feel what my alien wingman is thinking." Echo of Stars, the Vexthul communication specialist, provided the answer. "The harmonic resonance network links our minds during combat. We become one fighting force." Jenny Adams discovered that her merged consciousness could do more than just control her ship. She could feel the Devourer scouts like diseases in the fabric of space. "I can sense their weak points. They're not as invincible as they look." She dove toward a scout that was trying to consume a damaged Vexthul fighter. Instead of using her weapons, she fired a concentrated burst of pure thought through the reality anchor system. The Devourer scout simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, but erased from reality. "How did you do that?" Kevin Brooks asked. "I convinced the universe that it was never there," Jenny replied, sounding surprised at her own words. The tide of battle began to turn. The Devourer scouts, used to consuming energy and matter, could not adapt fast enough to weapons that attacked the very concept of existence. One by one, they were trapped, erased, or banished to dimensions where they could not function. But as the last scout fell, something much worse began to happen. The tiers in space that the scouts had created began to grow larger. Through them, Jake could see vast dark shapes moving in the space between realities. "General Cross," Jake said, "please tell me that's not the main force." Cross's enhanced senses were picking up disturbances across multiple dimensions. "That's not the main force, that's something much worse. The scouts were just testing our defenses, now they're calling for help." Shard Singer Velthak's crystal form turned deep red, the color of Vexthal fear. "In all our years of running, we have never seen them call for reinforcements so quickly. Your species impresses them." Dr. Carter was studying the readings from the battle. The reality anchor weapons worked, but each time we used them, we made the dimensional tiers larger. We may have won the battle, but we've made the war harder. Colonel Pete Williams appeared on the main screen from his research lab. "Doctor, Carter is right. Every time we twist reality, we create more ways for the Devourers to enter our dimension. We need a new strategy." Jake looked around the command center at the humans and Vexthal working together. In just one day, they had gone from enemies to allies to something closer than brothers. They had faced the ultimate terror and won. But the victory came with a price. The main Devourer force was coming, and it would be bigger than anything they had faced. Worse, their best weapons had made the enemy stronger. "General Cross," Jake said, "what do we do now?" Cross looked at the growing tiers in space, then at the mixed crews of humans and aliens who had fought so bravely together. "Now we do what humans do best. We find a way to turn our biggest problem into our greatest weapon." Amy Tucker's voice came over the radio from her damaged fighter. "Captain Burke, my ship is barely holding together, but I've got an idea that's either brilliant or completely insane." Ryan smiled despite everything. "In that case, it's probably both. Let's hear it." As the enhanced warriors, human pilots and Vexthal fighters regrouped around New Terra Prime, the tiers in space continued to grow. Through them, dark shapes moved closer to their reality. The real war was about to begin, and humanity had just learned that sometimes winning a battle could make the next one much harder to fight. The tiers in space grew larger every hour. Through them, Admiral Jake Morrison could see the main Devourer force approaching. There were hundreds of the dark ships, each one bigger than anything they had faced before. Behind them came something that made his blood run cold, a massive structure that seemed to eat the stars around it. "That's their command ship," General Nathan Cross said, his enhanced eyes reading the dimensional distortions. "It's not just a vessel, it's a mobile reality eater. Wherever it goes, it removes entire sections of the universe from existence." Dr. Helen Carter was studying the data from their battle with the scouts. "General, I think Amy Tucker's crazy idea might actually work. If we can't stop them from coming through the tiers, maybe we can control where they end up." Amy Tucker floated in the medical bay, her body healing from the damage she had taken in the scout battle, but her mind was still connected to the tactical network. "The tiers in space work both ways. We've been thinking of them as doors the enemy opens, but doors can be used by both sides." Captain Ryan Burke understood immediately. "You want to go through the tiers and attack them in their own dimension?" "Not attack," Amy said with a weak smile. "Lead them. Make them follow us somewhere they don't want to go." Colonel Mary Bishop appeared on the main screen from her ship. "It's dangerous, but it could work. The Devourers consume realities by understanding them first. If we lead them into a dimension they can't understand, they become vulnerable." Shard Singer Velthak's crystal form brightened with hope. "The Forbidden Realm. There is a dimension where the architects made their final stand. It is filled with paradoxes and impossible mathematics. Even the Devourers fear to enter it." Jake felt a crazy plan forming in his mind. "How many ships do we have that can travel between dimensions?" Colonel Pete Williams ran the numbers quickly. "Every enhanced human fighter, about half the Vexthul bioships, and my research vessel. Maybe 50 ships total. Against hundreds of Devourers," Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant said. "The odds are impossible." Sergeant Alex Johnson laughed and his energy arm pulsed brighter. "Since when do humans care about impossible odds? Besides, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to save the universe." The plan that emerged was both simple and insane. The combined human Vexthul fleet would enter the Forbidden Realm and make enough noise to attract the Devourer command ship. Once the Reality Eater followed them into that impossible dimension, the paradoxes and contradictions would trap it long enough for the enhanced warriors to plant dimensional anchors throughout its structure. And then what? Engineer Paul Davis asked from the planet's surface. Cross smiled. Then we seal the tiers and leave the Devourer stuck in a dimension where 2 + 2 = purple and gravity flows upward on Tuesdays. Lieutenant Bobby Martinez coordinated the dimensional travel using the harmonic resonance network. All ships report ready. The Vexthul are singing their war songs. I've never heard anything so beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Jake stood in the command center of Cross's flagship as they prepared to enter the first dimensional tear. Around him, human and Vexthul crew members worked together like they had been partners for years instead of days. Sir, pilot Jenny Adams reported from her fighter, my consciousness is linked to 17 other ships. We're not just flying together anymore. We're thinking together. The transition to the Forbidden Realm was unlike anything Jake had ever experienced. Reality twisted around them and suddenly up was down, left was inside out, and yesterday was the color green. His brain hurt trying to process what he was seeing. Stay focused on the mission, Cross announced over the network. Don't try to understand this place, just use it. Squadron leader Kevin Brooks found that his enhanced vision was useless here. The future kept changing into the past, and the past insisted it had never happened. This is worse than fighting blind. I can see everything and nothing at the same time. But the Vexthul were adapting better. Their crystal minds could process paradoxes more easily than human brains. Echo of Stars began broadcasting harmonic patterns that helped the human pilots navigate the impossible space. The command ship is following us, Amy Tucker reported from her repaired fighter, and it's bringing friends. Lots of friends. The Devourer fleet poured through the dimensional tiers like a black tide. But as soon as they entered the Forbidden Realm, they began to slow down. Their reality-eating weapons couldn't function properly, in a place where reality changed every few seconds. Now! Cross shouted. The combined fleet split into attack groups. Human fighters used their reality anchor weapons to create pockets of stable space around the Devourer ships. Vexthul bio-ships sang harmonies that convinced the local paradoxes to become even more confusing. The enhanced warriors flew directly at the massive command ship. Corporal Danny White used his technology interface abilities to plant dimensional anchors throughout the command ship's structure. Each anchor created a bubble of normal reality within the vessel. But in the Forbidden Realm, normal reality was the most abnormal thing possible. The anchors are working, Williams reported. The command ship is starting to contradict itself. It's trying to exist and not exist at the same time. The battle that followed was unlike anything that had ever happened in any dimension. Humans fought alongside crystal beings against creatures made of living darkness, all while reality shifted around them like a kaleidoscope having a nervous breakdown. Jenny Adams discovered that her merged consciousness could actually communicate with the Forbidden Realm itself. The dimension is trying to help us. It doesn't like the Devourers either. As the last dimensional anchor was planted, Cross gave the order to retreat. The human and Vexthul ships raced back toward the tears in space, leaving the Devourer fleet, trapped in a realm where their own existence became a logical impossibility. Sealing the rifts now, Martinez announced. One by one, the tiers in space began to close. The last thing Jake saw through the final portal was the Devourer command ship trying to eat itself because it couldn't figure out if it was really there or not. 6 months later, Jake stood in the same command center, but everything had changed. New Terra Prime had become the capital of the Human Vexthul Alliance. Children from both species played together in the corridors, while their parents worked side by side to build a better future. The enhanced warriors had become teachers, passing on their knowledge to a new generation of dimensional fighters. Captain Burke now led a mixed squadron of human and Vexthul pilots. Amy Tucker had become an instructor, teaching others how to think their way through impossible battles. Dr. Carter headed a research team that included both human scientists and Vexthul crystal shapers. They were working on technology that could protect other species from threats like the Devourers. Any word from the other galaxies? Jake asked Cross, who had decided to stay and help build the Alliance rather than return to dimensional wandering. Their Architect's old communication network is still active, Cross replied. Other species are asking for our help. Word is spreading that there's a place where humans and aliens work together instead of fighting or absorbing each other. Jake nodded and looked at the stars through the viewport. Somewhere out there, the Devourers were still trapped in the Forbidden Realm, probably still trying to figure out if they existed or not. Other threats would come eventually, but humanity was no longer alone. General Cross, Jake said, what do we do now? Cross smiled and put his hand on Jake's shoulder. Now we do what humans have always done. We explore, we learn, we make friends. And when something tries to destroy those friends, we show it why picking a fight with humans is the worst mistake it could ever make. The ancient warriors had returned and brought with them the greatest gift of all, the knowledge that no matter how dark the universe became, hope would always find a way to fight back.